Welcome to this edition of the Native News Update. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain. Many of the stories read here today can be found at our website at indiancountrynews.com. Here's the news read for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. A 29-year-old Mission man convicted of assaulting a juvenile and two adults will serve 30 years in prison. Robert Erickson must also pay a $2,500 fine and be on supervised release for 5 years. Federal jurors in Pierre, South Dakota, convicted him of 2 counts of assault with a dangerous weapon, 2 counts of assault resulting in serious bodily injury, and 1 count of simple assault. Prosecutors say the charges are from separate incidents in December 2007 and January 2008 on the Rosebud Reservation, in which Erickson stabbed 3 people, 2 of whom were seriously injured. According to the indictment, the victims are Eli Antone, Kendra Smallbear, and a juvenile whose name is not included in the document. Federal judges ruled that the White Earth Chippewa Band's Shooting Star Casino in Minnesota is not subject to county property taxes, ending a bitter chapter between the band and Manoomin County. District Judge Michael Davis in Minneapolis ruled recently on a lawsuit filed by the band to stop foreclosure proceedings by the state and the county after the band stopped paying property taxes on the casino land in 2006. The ruling says that because the land was purchased through the federal White Earth Land Settlement Act, it was automatically placed into trust status and not subject to state or county taxes. Davis, however, dismissed the band's claims for damages for the $9.7 million in county property taxes that it paid on the casino land since 1993. Davis cited the 11th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which gives states immunity from lawsuits filed in federal court. Opponents of the University of North Dakota's Fighting Sioux nickname suspected the Ralph Engelston Arena was paying for a pro-nickname campaign leading up to a vote on the Spirit Lake Reservation. The arena manager says that's not the case. Supporters of the nickname say arena officials have provided advice, though they say the donations for their campaign have come from the reservation itself. Jody Hodgson said the arena's general manager. Hodgson says that Ralph does not pay nickname supporters or donate campaign funds. A 2007 settlement between UND and the NCAA requires that the university to win the blessing of the state's Sioux tribes if it wants to continue using the Fighting Sioux nickname and Indian head logo without penalties. A vote on the Spirit Lake Reservation is scheduled for April 21st. High water this spring has damaged bridges, washed out roads, and flooded homes on the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation, which straddles the North Dakota and South Dakota border. Ron His Horses Thunder, the tribal chairman, says at least 2 bridges have been damaged. One near Wakpala, South Dakota, started leaning and was closed after it was damaged by floodwaters, he said. His Horses Thunder said one-way traffic is all that is permitted on the other damaged bridge, which is on the main highway between Canal, South Dakota and Fort Yates, North Dakota. The bridge on the Kennel Road is critical to traffic on the reservation, His Horses Thunder has said. He said tribal officials also are concerned about flooded homes. While waters have receded, some people can't return, so they're looking at seeing how they're going to handle housing issues on the reservation as well as all the roads that have been washed out. Some scholars estimate that at the time of Columbus, there were roughly 300 native languages spoken in North America. Many of them are now extinct, but David White, an electrician in the small town of Brimfield, Massachusetts, is on a mission to save his native language, the Nipmuc, from dying. On busy days, his van doubles as an office. After placing an order for some parts, he travels to a modest 1-story home near Brimfield where he installs some light switches. But he's finding it challenging to explain what he's doing in Nipmuc. I don't think there's any word for a switch or electricity for that matter, he said. Some scholars have already written off the Nipmuc language as dead, but White counters that at one time authorities claimed the Nipmuc themselves had died out. There are only about 10 people who speak their native Nipmuc language. Tribal elders are using preserved fragments like the morning prayer, along with documents left behind by colonists and missionaries to reconstruct the Nipmuc tongue. A tribe that has been trying to regain federal recognition since 2004 may be a step closer to reaching that goal. Delaware tribal members in Bartsville, Oklahoma have until April 21st to register for a May 26 election on a tribal constitution. All members who have registered to vote will get a ballot. Tribal spokesman Ernest Tiger said that ballots that aren't returned will count as no votes. The tribe has been associated with the Cherokee Nation for years and gained federal recognition in the 1990s, but lost it in 2004 under a federal court decision. The tribe is separate from the federally recognized Delaware Nation, which has its headquarters in Anadarko. The Delawares have been in a dispute with the Cherokee Nation over its attempts to break away, but the tribe's councils recently agreed to split last October, Tigers said. Mark Charles would like Native Americans to start thinking outside the box about themselves and their political voice, or lack of it, in the United States. Charles of Fort Defiance, Arizona, spoke to a small group of community members at the University of New Mexico Gallup recently about his idea for the country's Native American population to join together to create a 51st virtual state for Native people. A graduate at the University of California, Los Angeles, Charles is a public speaker, a writer, computer programmer, minister, and a consultant on Native American issues. Charles explained he came up with the idea of a 51st virtual state for Native Americans after returning to the Navajo Nation and living for 3 years with his family in a traditional hogan in Cross Canyon, Arizona. For Charles, living in an isolated rural area of the reservation provided an answer to one question he had. Although there are more than 500 tribes in the United States, the total population of Native people is so small that their political voice is marginalized. How to have more impact on the political process? Comparing the total Native population to the population of Iowa, which has 7 electoral votes, Charles said having one large virtual Native American state with a block of electoral votes would radically change the political landscape in the United States. Charles thinks it would make candidates devote more serious attention to Native interests like treaty obligations, land issues, and sovereignty. If you happen to be going out on the powwow circuit this weekend, here's some of the upcoming powwows. There's the Cherokee 25th Anniversary Powwow that's coming up in Cleveland, Tennessee. The First Nations Spring Powwow, that's being held at the Heck Ed Pavilion in Seattle, Washington. We have the 43rd LIHA Spring Powwow at the Lamar Dixon Expo Center Arena. That's going to be in Gonzales, Louisiana. There's the ASU Band Practice the 23rd ASU Spring Competition Powwow, that's at the ASU Band Practice Field in Tempe, Arizona. The 44th Halawa Sapani, that's going to be held at the Powwow Grounds in Hollister, North Carolina. The 26th Lakota Mnisiwa CP at the Youth Center in Spearfish, South Dakota. The Red Hearts Gathering at the Pine View Powwow Grounds in Linden, Tennessee. The 41st Kayeo, that's at the Adams Center in Missoula, Montana. The 37th American Indian Symposium at the NSU campus in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. The 20th Woodlands and High Plains Powwow at the NDSU campus in Moorhead, Minnesota. And then there's the 6 New Faces of Ancient People. That's being held in Boalsburg, Pennsylvania. You get out there and hit the powwow circuit this weekend. So that's the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to thank our underwriters for helping us with this broadcast. Thanks for joining with us today.